Look at Michael Jackson in 1979. Then look at him in 2009. It's almost like two different people. For 30 years, the world watched his face transform, and everyone thought they knew the reason. Vanity. A man so obsessed with his own looks that he cut himself apart, surgery after surgery, until he didn't even look human anymore. That's the story the tabloids sold you for decades. But here's the thing. That story is mostly wrong. The truth about why Michael Jackson's face kept changing is stranger, sadder, and way more surprising than he was addicted to plastic surgery. So let's separate the myth from the medical reality. And if you want the real story behind the legend, hit subscribe before we get into it. Now let's go back to where it all began, because the beginning is completely normal. In 1979, Michael was 21 years old, rehearsing a dance routine, when he broke his nose. That's it, not vanity, an injury. He needed surgery to fix the break, and while he was at it, with his solo album Off the Wall coming out, he decided to get his first rhinoplasty. His surgeon was a top Beverly Hills doctor named Stephen Hoflin. Here's the problem. Michael wasn't happy with the result, and he said the surgery left him with breathing difficulties that affected his singing. So in 1981, he went back for a second nose job to fix it. And this is the crucial part to understand about Michael Jackson's nose. Almost every surgery after the first one was in some way trying to correct the one before it. It was a chain reaction, and it was about to get much worse. Now here's the first thing most people completely forget. Not every change to Michael's face was a choice. On January 27, 1984, Michael was filming a Pepsi commercial when the pyrotechnics went off too close to his head and set his hair on fire. He suffered serious burns to his scalp and lost a chunk of his hair, leaving a bald, palm-sized patch of scar tissue on top of his head. To fix it, Michael had to endure a series of painful scalp surgeries. Doctors cut away the burned areas and stretched his healthy scalp over the damage. For years afterward, he relied on hair pieces, hats, and even tattoos on his scalp to hide it. That famous fedora he always wore? A big reason for it was covering the scar tissue from that fire. So before you even get to plastic surgery, a huge part of Michael's changing look came from an accident that nearly killed him. That's not vanity. That's a burn victim trying to look normal. And if you think that's surprising, wait until you hear what actually happened to his skin, because that's the part everyone gets completely wrong. Here's the accusation that followed Michael Jackson his entire life: that he bleached his skin because he hated being black. It was cruel, it was constant, and it was wrong. Michael always said he had a disease, a condition called vitiligo, where the immune system destroys the skin's pigment, leaving patches of light and dark skin. Most people didn't believe him. They thought it was an excuse. Then he died, and the autopsy settled it for good. The coroner officially confirmed that Michael Jackson had vitiligo, with depigmentation across multiple areas of his body. He was telling the truth the whole time. Here's what really happened with his skin. As the vitiligo spread, he was left blotchy, patches of his original color mixed with pale white patches. And when a disease has already turned most of your skin pale, doctors can actually even it out by lightening the remaining dark patches, so you're one uniform color instead of a patchwork. That's a medical treatment for widespread vitiligo, not a man trying to erase who he was. His own son later said Michael was deeply insecure about looking blotchy and just wanted to look even. So the lighter skin? That was a disease, confirmed by his own autopsy. Not bleaching, not self-hatred. Okay, now back to the nose, because this is where the real tragedy is. After his third and fourth nose jobs in the mid-80s, Michael's nose started failing. Not because he kept wanting it smaller, but because the earlier surgeries had damaged the structure. By 1986, he was showing up to events in sunglasses, hiding a nose that looked asymmetric and was actually starting to collapse. And here's a detail almost nobody knows. Michael also had lupus, another autoimmune disease, which reportedly attacked the skin and tissue of his nose. According to one of his doctors, many of Michael's later nose surgeries weren't cosmetic at all. They were reconstructive, desperate attempts to rebuild a nose that his own body and his earlier operations had destroyed. By the 2000s, doctors described him as a nasal cripple. His nose had collapsed so badly he could barely breathe through it, and at times he had to wear a prosthetic piece just to fill the gap. This wasn't a man chasing a prettier face. This was a man whose face was falling apart, trying to hold it together. But that raises the real question, the one this whole video is about. How many surgeries did Michael Jackson actually have? Because the answer is where the myth and the truth really collide. Here's the surprising part. Michael Jackson himself only ever admitted to a very small number of cosmetic procedures. In his autobiography and his famous Oprah interview, he owned up to 2 nose jobs, and later a cleft added to his chin. That's basically it. He insisted everything else was a lie, and he once said the number of surgeries he'd had could be counted on 2 fingers. Now, was that the full story? Probably not. His autopsy did reveal more than he admitted. Scars beside his nostrils, scars behind his ears, a chin implant, and cosmetic tattoos on his eyebrows, eyelids, and lips to fake definition. And one doctor who worked with his surgeon claimed Michael had far more work than he let on. But here's the key. Even the higher estimates land at a number of major procedures far, far lower than the tabloid fantasy of a man who had 100 surgeries and rebuilt his entire skeleton. There's no evidence he had his cheekbone shaved. No evidence of the wild he's turning himself into a different person claims. And a lot of what did happen was reconstructive, fixing the burn, fixing the collapsing nose, fixing damage from earlier operations. The media also played dirty. They'd take a badly lit childhood photo with an afro and a round teenage face, put it next to a professionally lit adult photo, and scream, "Look how much surgery he had." Michael pointed this out himself. He said, of course he looked different. He grew up, he lost weight, he changed his hair, and the new photos had perfect lighting. That's aging, not surgery. So let's put the whole picture together, because now it makes sense. Michael Jackson's face didn't keep changing because he was a vain man addicted to the operating table. It changed because of a collision of things mostly outside his control. A disease that stole his skin's color. A second disease attacking his nose. A fire that scarred his scalp. A first nose job that failed and triggered years of reconstructive surgery to fix it. Fillers and treatments in his final years as he battled aging and insecurity. And on top of all of it, a media machine that exaggerated every single change for profit. Yes, he had cosmetic surgery. He admitted that himself. But the man the tabloids created, the plastic surgery monster, never really existed. The real story is a person dealing with illness, injury, and deep insecurity, under the harshest spotlight in human history, with the whole world mocking him for things he often couldn't even control. That's not a punchline. That's a tragedy. So the next time someone tells you Michael Jackson just cut his face apart out of vanity, you'll know the truth is far more surprising than that. Disease, injury, botched surgeries he spent years trying to fix, and a press that turned his pain into headlines. The king of pop spent his life being defined by a face that was changing for reasons most people never bothered to understand. So tell me in the comments, did you know the real reasons behind it? And if you want more deep dives into the truth behind the legend, hit subscribe, because there's a lot more coming.